Did the Russian sleep experiment really happen? And if so, is this photograph proof? This is all things creepy. Let's begin. So the Russian sleep experiment is a creepy story that had been drifting about on the internet and eventually found its way to creepypasta.com, where it is currently widely received as one of the best on the website and has been narrated several times on YouTube, even by myself. A link will be provided. The story is pretty terrifying. It's what I would consider the best example of a creepypasta done right. It mixes themes of horrific Soviet experimentation, which we do have documented evidence of, with a more paranormal twist. Of course, I won't give away any spoilers. If you haven't seen the video, I strongly suggest you do. A link will be in the description and provided above, so check it out. Now, of course, there is no documented evidence of this particular experiment taking place. Of course, possibly it was hidden under secrecy, but most of the old Soviet experiments have been leaked at this point. They've been documented. But of course, there is always the possibility that they were experimenting on sleep and something like this did happen. However, this is, of course, a creepypasta. It was spread throughout the internet, so perhaps there's an element of creativity, someone making something up. The only real solid evidence of it happening, other than conjecture, is this pretty disturbing image here, which often accompanies the creepypasta wherever it goes. There's also this image here where people are wearing gas masks, and that has been associated to the creepypasta as well. The implication, of course, being that these individuals were the volunteers for the experiment. And this image is a little easier to track down and find, so I'll explain it first. The photograph originally comes from 1917, and it displays some of the factions fighting in World War I, a time in which toxic gas as a weapon was used quite effectively during the trench warfare era. And of course, these gas marks are one from each of those countries that fought in World War I, simply displaying the differences between them. So this photo indeed has nothing to do with any kind of Russian sleep experiment, and would have been taken place even before the Soviet Union was formed. The next image, however, is clearly not a historical photograph, and in my opinion is a lot more shocking and disturbing. Whatever this is in the photograph, it's either not human or a very twisted and deformed human, suggesting that it is indeed the end result of the Russian sleep experiment. However, when we take a closer look at this photograph, we notice a few things. It appears to be wrapped in some sort of bandages. Now, maybe during the experiment they needed to do so because the patients were peeling their own skin off. However, it also resembles a horror movie icon, The Mummy. So perhaps this is the scene from a very old horror movie. It's in black and white, so perhaps it is a movie that is not very well known today, and thus unrecognizable. I did some digging, and no, I couldn't find any movies resembling this particular shot here. Perhaps this isn't someone wearing makeup for a movie, but a prop, an inanimate object. But why would someone own something like that? That seems a pretty odd thing to have in your house. But then, of course, it struck me. In the UK, Halloween isn't quite as prevalent, but in the USA, it's as popular as ever. And of course, on Halloween, you buy Halloween props. In some cases, these props can be pretty big and eerily realistic. The lengths we go to scare our neighbors. So I did some searching, and I eventually found this. Titled Spasm, this is a Halloween prop that is sold on the internet for a pretty hefty price if you ask me, but somebody out there obviously put their money to good use and turned it into this viral photograph using black and white video effects, dim lighting, and a creepy angle. This came as a surprise to me because the sheer absurdity of this creature in the photograph. I thought it might be some sort of artistic creation, maybe even a drawing, something that had been digitally created. But no, it's pretty much mass-produced in a factory somewhere, and some designer did a very good job and created a pretty spooky Halloween prop. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'm of course a little disappointed to find out that these images aren't real and the story probably is just a story. But on the other hand, I am a little relieved because of course if this photograph were real, a human being would have had to have suffered pretty badly. I'll leave it at that. If you haven't seen my Russian sleep experiment video, check it out. It's freaky stuff. Like the video if you did, share it with a friend, and of course, if you haven't already, subscribe for more creepy content.